Hi guys, a very warm welcome to all of you. In today's video, I will discuss about Fyodor Dostoevsky. Fyodor Dostoevsky was one of the greatest writers of all time, and in fact, he is considered as the greatest writer of Russia alongside with Leo Tolstoy. So, if you read Dostoevsky's novels and if you read his works, you will see certain recurrent themes, certain themes which are repeated frequently. So I will discuss today about 3 themes, and I hope this video will provide you some kind of value and you will learn more about these writers and you will become more interested in reading his novels. So this is the purpose of this video. So the first theme is, which you will find recurrently, very frequently in Dostoevsky novels, is that human nature is complex. Now, why he says this thing that human nature is complex? See, generally what happens when we look at human nature, we think in very black and white terms. We feel that, okay, this person is evil, so this person is evil. This person is good, so this person is good. But Dostoevsky says that this is not how the world works. This is not how the human nature works. He says a person who is very evil, and he shows this thing in his novels through various characters. He will show a character who is alcoholic, who is a womanizer, who is into debauchery, who is alcoholic, but at the same time that person has some element of goodness in him. A person is evil, he is morally corrupt, he is depraved, but simultaneously that person has some element of goodness in him. And the other side, he will show the characters who are very saintly, who are very nice, who are very good, very nice, very loved by everyone. People idolize them, people try to emulate them, but even the saintly figures, they have some element of evilness in them. Okay, so that's the beauty of Dostoevsky. His characters are not one-dimensional. His characters are not just like it's just evil, so evil. It's good, so it's good. No, he will show that even evil people have some good elements, and even saintly people have some evil elements. So he shows that human nature is complex. It's not easy, very easy the way we see. And also he shows that human nature has dark side. We all wear mask, and he shows it very beautifully. And that's something which later on, if you see the psychoanalyst Carl Jung, he repeatedly mentioned in his work that all humans have dark side. And Freud was Sigmund Freud idea of subconscious, unconscious, somewhat is inspired by Dostoevsky, because Dostoevsky has mentioned repeatedly in his works that people get hysteria. Especially he talks about a lot of women who get hysteria, and this portrayal of women getting hysteria, the subconscious forces affecting a person, this inspired Sigmund Freud to conceive the idea of subconscious. And Freud was into all these things. He used to do psychoanalysis, especially of women, and he used to cure women who used to get hysteria. So you have to understand that there are very deep forces inside us. There are very strong subconscious forces inside us which affect us, which affect our external behavior. So that's what Dostoevsky is trying to show. Number one, human nature is complex. Second, that there are some darker forces, some deeper forces inside us which we generally don't reveal, which we conceal from society. Okay, and both, if you see, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, both were psychoanalysts, great psychoanalysts of their time. They were both highly inspired by Dostoevsky. And also, if you see, a lot of writers, Albert Camus, and the philosophy giant Friedrich Nietzsche has once mentioned that Dostoevsky is the only psychologist from whom I have learnt something. And it's an irony, the statement itself is an irony, because Dostoevsky has never read a single psychology textbook, but the man has such a great insight on human psychology and human nature that such great people like Friedrich Nietzsche and Freud and Jung, they were inspired from him. So that's number one theme which you will see recurrently occurring in Dostoevsky's work, that human nature is complex and we all have a dark side. We wear masks, we conceal our reality from the world. Second theme which recurrently occurs in Dostoevsky work is that life is suffering. And now why he says life is suffering? Because his own personal life was very full of suffering. So he lost both his parents during very early childhood. Secondly, he has to suffer in Siberian jail. He was jailed for around 10 years. He suffered in jail for 10 years, and jail life in Siberia is pure hell. It's not easy to survive there, but he survived there. And also he suffered from gambling addiction. He had to face loss of, he had huge financial losses. It's said that Dostoevsky earned good amount of money by selling his books. He got money in the morning from his publisher, and by the evening he spent all the money on his this by the way of gambling. So he suffered from gambling addiction, and due to that he faced a lot of economical problems as well. And a lot of times you will see that there's so much pain, physical pain in people's lives, mental pain in people's lives. Sometimes you face the death of a person whom you love very much, okay, and sometimes people face various form of physical illness, due to which they have to get bedridden. For example, if someone gets paralysis, or someone is diagnosed with cancer, then it's a very disheartening condition, and you don't have anything to do. You cannot do much about that thing. So life is full of suffering, life is full of pain, and if the suffering doesn't affect you personally, it can affect the people whom you love. So indirectly suffering is going to be there. If you live long enough, either physical suffering or either mental suffering is going to hit you, either you directly or indirectly by the means of people around you. They will get suffered, and indirectly you will get suffered. And he says that if you want to get rid of suffering, if you want to get rid of pain, you have no option except for believing in some higher power. And he was a very religious person. He was a very firm believer in God. He believed in God. In order to get the strength to bear that suffering, you have to believe in some kind of higher power. And also he mentions there's a novel, in fact a novella known as White Nights. He says that if a person has some moments of bliss in his life, for example, if you lived at least few moments in your life very blissfully, very beautifully, then those moments of bliss are so powerful that they can give you tremendous amount of strength to bear suffering. You cannot remove suffering, you cannot eradicate suffering from your life, but when you have some moments of blissfulness in your life, that moments of blissfulness in your life will give you tremendous amount of strength to bear suffering in your life. That's what he's saying. So he's saying that at least when you get some moments to live life deeply, live life passionately, okay. And he acknowledges that there is suffering in life, and many times there is more suffering in life in comparison to happiness and blissful moments. But even if the blissful moments are less, even if the moments of happiness are less, especially if you are poor, this happens a lot of time, then even those small moments can provide you enough energy, can provide you enough light to bear those more frequent and more heavy moments of suffering. So that's his theme number 2. Theme number 3 is, I would say, which repeats frequently in his work, is that reason alone cannot solve all the problems of a person's life. Now, why is saying this thing? You have to go into the history. There was a Dostoevsky was born 200 years ago. That was a period of transition. Why I'm saying period of transition? Because Russia was a very deeply, highly conservative and traditional society. And due to the Enlightenment age, due to the scientific revolution, there were a lot of things, there are a lot of ideas coming from Europe to Russia. Okay, it was getting modernized. There was a lot of industrial revolution. There was a lot of communism coming in, Marxism coming in, cynicism coming in, atheism coming in, atheistic ideas coming in, nihilism coming in. So a lot of ideologies coming in, and they were all coming from Western world. They were all coming from European part, especially from England, from Germany, from France. They were all importing the ideas. Now there was a conflict. Russian society was divided into two parts. On one side you have people from the older generation. They were very highly traditional, conservative. They were highly religious. On the other side you have young crowd. They were importing the ideas from the West of scientific revolution, all the reasoning, all the logic, all we have to be atheistic and we have to apply logic all the time, and due to that they become very nihilistic as well. Okay, because no longer there's a need of God, no longer there's a need of religion. So once you remove religion, once you remove God, then there's an emptiness in life. What will give meaning to your life? Okay, so there was a conflict, there was a drift happening. So what Dostoevsky said, Dostoevsky was against this thing. Dostoevsky was against this kind of modernization of Russia. He says this thing, at least in terms of ideologies, if not in terms of imbibing the scientific technology and modern inventions. He might be in favor of modernizing Russia in the sense of medical science and inventions and all that. But when it comes to modernization of ideologies, like you're removing God, you're removing religion completely, he was completely against this thing. He said that reason alone cannot give us meaning, because science is good, technology is good when it comes to making life comfortable, when it comes to making life more luxurious. Okay, it's good in saving your life, because for example, if you suffer from some kind of medical illness, then medical science will save you. Okay, and technology and latest inventions, they make our life comfortable, luxurious. But when it comes to more existential questions of life, why I'm here, what's my purpose, what gives meaning to my life, he says science is not sufficient. Science fails there. That's the area where you need God. That's the area where you need religion. So if he says, if we move God, if you move religion, then there's a whole lot of emptiness. People become nihilistic, they become morally corrupt. So all evil things take place. And that's very beautifully he's written in his book Brother Karamazov. If you read that book, you will understand. Okay, and also he says that man is not reason alone, because then there was a time when 200 years back, even still today, you will see people say that data is the new oil. We can predict everything about human behavior. Humans are entirely predictable, and death is a technical problem. We can solve it with the help of science and technology. So somewhere logic, reasoning, we are over relying on all these things even today. So 200 years back also this was similar kind of thing happening. So history repeats itself. So Dostoevsky says that man cannot be governed by reason alone. He acknowledges reason, he acknowledges the power of reason and logic. He's not saying that reason is not important and logic is not important, but he says that man cannot run on reason and logic alone. Man is highly emotional being. He's highly run by his instincts. They're very deep instincts inside man. They're very deep emotions inside man which govern a human being. So he says we are highly rational as well. We are rational, but we are highly irrational as well. We are logical, but we are highly emotional as well. We are predictable up to a certain sense, but we are highly unpredictable as well. So he was of this idea that this untapped regions of human consciousness, instincts, emotions, okay, because most of the people are not aware of all these things, of their emotions, of their instincts. Okay, so he says they run us very deeply. They are very important in running a person. So man cannot be governed by reason alone, because if we just start believing in reason alone, if we start believing in logic alone, then people can turn wicked. They can go insane as well. And that's what he shows in his there's a character in his book Brother Karamazov. Okay, there's a guy known as Ivan. Ivan is a theist, and he has all these kind of nihilistic ideas as life is meaningless and there's no God, there's no use of any higher power. And he's a kind of a, he portrays exactly a kind of a prototype, the person who has taken in the European ideas of scientific revolution, logic and reasoning. And that same Ivan, okay, then I don't want to give spoilers for that book, but that same Ivan, he puts all those ideas in a guy who is very dumb, Simeradikov. Okay, there's one more character and he's dumb. He's a kind of a buffoon. He's not intelligent. Ivan is very intelligent, atheistic, nihilistic, cynical kind of guy. So Ivan infuses this idea. He puts that idea in that person's mind that if we remove God, then everything is permitted in this world. And this guy goes and murders his father. And later this Ivan, who is very logical, highly full of reasoning, this guy goes mad. And this person, Simeradikov, he commits suicide. Okay, so that's what Dostoevsky is trying to portray through his work, that if you remove God, if you remove religion, then people go mad, people go morally corrupt. If we remove God from this universe, then everything is permitted. That's what he meant, and he's showing that through his work. Okay, so it's that. So now the thing is, it's not that everything what Dostoevsky writes and all the themes which he has written, which I've mentioned, which I've just right now, it's not that I agree with all of what he's saying. We can argue, we can have some strong arguments. What he's saying is, we can completely say no, we don't argue, we don't agree with all this, we have counter evidence to all these things. But again, you have to agree at least on certain points, if not everything. That you can completely disagree, but you have to agree on certain things, that at least up to a certain extent, what all he's trying to portray in his writings, up to a certain extent, if not completely, they are right. We cannot completely ignore them. Okay, so this was all about today's video. Do let me know in the comment section whether you agree with all the themes which I have discussed in this video or not. What are your personal opinions on all these themes? Have a nice day. Bye bye. Take care.